You failed at something small, and the reaction inside you was enormous. That gap is what we need to talk about. The modern world has real things to offer here. Therapy can name the inner critic. Productivity culture can rebuild the system so you fail less often. Mindfulness can teach you to observe the spiral without being swept into it. These tools help real people, and I am not dismissing them. But here is what they cannot quite reach. The disproportionate shame you feel when you fail at something small is not really about the failure. It is about what the failure reveals. That you are not the person you believed you were or needed yourself to be. And as long as your sense of self depends on your performance, no system fixes that. You will just move the goalposts, fail again, and the spiral will be waiting. 2,000 years of Christian reflection saw this pattern with ruthless clarity. And one voice, quieter than most, named it in a way that still cuts through. There is a passage in Matthew that most people hear as instruction. Jesus says in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 and 29, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." He does not say, "Come to me, and I will make you stronger." He says, "Come to me, and I will give you rest." The burden he is addressing is not just hard circumstances. It is the burden of carrying yourself, of being your own standard. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, Paul writes what God told him in his weakness. "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Not despite weakness, in it. Thérèse of Lisieux entered a contemplative convent in Normandy at 15 and died of tuberculosis at 24. She never led a movement or wrote a theological treatise, and yet what she worked out in that short, enclosed life has been called one of the most important spiritual discoveries of the last several centuries. She was a perfectionist. She knew it, and she said so. In her autobiography, Story of a Soul, she wrote about being tormented by small failures, an impatient word, a distracted prayer, and after each one, the same collapse into self-reproach. She recognized what many people recognize but cannot name, that the harshest judge of her failures was not God, it was herself. What she arrived at, slowly and through genuine suffering, she called the little way. It is not a technique for lowering expectations. It is a theological conviction about grace. From Story of a Soul, chapter 9, she wrote, "I have always wanted to be a saint. Alas, I have always noticed that when I compared myself to the saints, there is between them and me the same difference that exists between a mountain whose summit is lost in the clouds and the obscure grain of sand trampled underfoot by passers-by. Instead of becoming discouraged, I said to myself, God cannot inspire unrealizable desires. I can then, in spite of my littleness, aspire to holiness." She does not resolve the gap by working harder. She resolves it by questioning the premise that she was supposed to be the mountain in the first place. And then there is what she wrote about falling, not how to prevent it, what to do after. In a letter to her sister Celine, sourced in the collected letters of Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, letter 89, she wrote, "You make me very happy by not grieving over your miseries. Is that not a little like Jesus, who weeps not over our sins, but over our refusal to accept the mercy he offers? The spiral of self-contempt after a small failure is not proof of how much you care about holiness. It is, she would say, a subtle refusal of mercy, a way of insisting you should have been better than you are, a way of being God over yourself. There is a misreading worth naming before you walk away with the wrong thing. The little way is not permission to stop caring. It is not the spiritual version of lowering the bar. Thérèse worked at virtue every single day through real physical suffering. The little way is not the absence of effort. It is the absence of the belief that your effort is what holds you together. Two kinds of people might hear this. The first is the person crushed by their own perfectionism, for whom every small failure becomes an indictment of their whole self. That person needs this badly. The second is the person looking for theological cover for not trying. Who wants accepting smallness to mean accepting mediocrity? That person has not found the little way. They have found something else. The honest test is whether your acceptance of smallness produces gratitude or simply relief from accountability. In Thérèse, it produced joy and deeper love. She failed, got up quickly, without prolonged self-punishment, and turned back toward God. That turning is everything. The disproportionate contempt you feel after a small failure is almost always a sign that your identity is carrying weight it was never built to hold. The answer is not to succeed more consistently. It is to locate yourself somewhere that does not collapse when you fail. If this opens something, sit with it before you try to solve it. The little way begins the moment you stop treating your failures as emergencies. You are small. That was always the truth.